I'll call the East Lyme Board of Selectmen meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of September 4th, 2019. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I learned this morning of the passing of Jim Fleischl earlier, I guess last month. If you didn't know Jim, besides an accomplished career in Coast Guard and so many other things, he was the guy who gave you the I voted sticker at the community center. He's that guy, and he did it for a long time, and that was his way of serving our town, among many other things. If we could have a moment of silence for Jim and his family. Thank you.
And he also served a distinguished career as a captain in the Coast Guard, serving his country.
Coast Guard, exactly. I think his obit was in the paper today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Came as a shock to me. And he had just moved out of town about a year or two ago over to Chester, be closer to his family. Wish his family well. Norma, I think, is his wife. Additional agenda and consent items? Are there any? Okay, so delegations. Anyone like to speak to the Board of Selectmen this evening? Anyone at all? Going 3 times. Okay. Approval of the minutes. There's a public hearing of August 7th and the regular meeting of August 7th.
I'll move to approve the public hearing minutes of August 7th, 2019, as submitted.
I'll second it, but I was not here.
Okay, thank you for doing that. Any comments or corrections? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain.
There's 2 abstentions and 3 yays.
And then I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 7, 2019, as submitted.
I'll second.
Any comments or corrections? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And there's
Abstain.
2 abstentions. 302. Thank you. The consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of September 4th, 2019, in the amount of $1,420.89.
Second.
Seconded. Any further comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Terrific. The first item on our agenda, beyond the regular stuff, is old business, is bringing back up the harbor management ordinance that needs to be adopted, and then the harbor management plan. I think we have them in reverse order here on our agenda. I think we're going to tackle the ordinance first and the plan. But Mrs. Collins is here to update us on where we are. There were a few items that came up in public hearing last time,
Yes.
and good points were made. And so they've been addressed. Ma'am.
They have, and I've been working closely with Mr. Dinsmore, who's the chairman of the commission, and with the town's consultant to come up with a solution to the problems posed by the Oswegatchie Hills Club in its letter to Mr. Dinsmore that was read aloud at the public hearing on August 7th. That letter was dated August 1st, and there were certain requests that they had regarding ownership of certain parcels, specifically in Saunders Point. And what we've recommended and what Mr. Dinsmore is recommending is that on those areas, rather than determine ownership to certain parcels that the town still thinks are unclear, the plan is not meant to determine title to property in town to the fire docks. And so rather than do that in this document, we're going to revert in the areas of concern back to the '94 plan. And the consultant and I went over it today, what he's recommending, and you have those changes in front of you in a document that I gave you at the beginning of the meeting. The changes in there are listed, but the important ones are we're renaming Camp Net at Niantic, which is the current name of what used to be Camp Niantic. We're changing the DEEP's subsection that determines harbor management plans and giving it its proper name, which was changed after the draft. And on areas of concern, particularly areas down in Saunders Point, we're reverting back to the property descriptions in the 1994 plan. So I would ask, and the ordinance did not need to change at all. The ordinance that you have had in your possession will remain the same. It's just the plan that remains the same. And to make the distinction for you, while the statute provides that the plan has to be adopted by an ordinance, the plan itself is not adopted as an ordinance. So you have two resolutions before you tonight. One is adopting the ordinance, and the other one is adopting the plan, and they are two separate actions by the board.
Are there any questions for
Yes,
Mrs.
so
Collins?
does that mean then that we could, as time went on, we could modify the plan without having to change the ordinance? The ordinance would be a separate standalone.
That's correct.
And then later, if modifications had to be made to the plan, we could do that.
Yes, for instance, with these issues regarding roads, if a quiet title action is filed and a court determines who really owns things where roads or access points to the river where ownership has been in question, the plan could be modified to reflect that without having to change the ordinance.
Thank you.
And that would go through their commission and then come back here and has to be finally approved here. So any changes, there's 2 steps, correct?
Correct.
Still, okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's do it.
Yeah, we have a lot of feedback tonight on the, and I tried
Could you
that.
touch your, sometimes it's that, sometimes it's static
Okay.
on that.
I think that's better.
I don't know if that matters. Do you think that matters?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Sorry for the audio visual, if this is coming through on the TV or on the tape that you're watching. Apologies. We're hoping to upgrade this equipment when we put in the new police station, as everything will be digitized with dispatch going to another place, and frankly, with everybody watching digital TV. So all our equipment needs to be digitized as well, and we're hoping to produce better quality town meetings in the future too. We're working toward that.
okay, I'll move the ordinance first.
So it'll be the ordinance first.
Move the following. Resolve to adopt the ordinance modifying the 1994 ordinance for the use and enjoyment of the East Lyme Harbor Management Area. The ordinance shall be effective 10 days after publication of notice of its adoption. And FYI, the anticipated timeline for publishing the day is September 10th, so it'd probably be effective September 20th.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Any further comment? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Resolution passes unanimously.
Now move the plan. Move the following. Resolve pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 22A-113M, to adopt the 2019 revised Harbor Management Plan, which plan replaces the Harbor Management Plan adopted by the East Lyme Board of Selectmen on May 4, 1994. Said 2019 revised Harbor Management Plan is effective 10 days after the publication of the notice of adoption of the ordinance modifying the 1994 ordinance for the use and enjoyment of the East Lyme Harbor Management Area.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any further comments?
Just great job, Steve, after a lot of years of hard work to you and your commission.
It's an outstanding report. Be proud of it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you. Again, a unanimous vote.
Yeah, I don't think it makes any difference.
don't
Did you
think it
try
does.
flipping it off?
I flipped it on and off.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Great.
great, thank you. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Collins.
Thank you, yeah.
And Steve, thank you for all that hard work.
Good to get it done.
Appreciate
We
it.
will get the final copy of the plan to where it needs to go, since we didn't have time. We only have these changes today,
Right.
as well as the ordinance without the track changes to you, Ms. Stevens, tomorrow.
Terrific. Thank you.
There is one final step for this.
Come on up to the microphone so we can hear you.
Just as a point of process, this will need to go back to DEEP for approval of the final changes that we've made, and we expect them to approve it with de minimis changes.
Right.
So that this should not be an issue, and once we have final approval, then we will distribute the final approved copies.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And obviously you let my office know, and
Yes.
we have the final,
Yes.
and we'll let the Board of Selectmen know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, we'll move on our agenda. Speaking of the state needing to approve a resolution of ours, they didn't approve a resolution that we previously voted on, which was to accept the land from the state at Bride Park. This was an afterthought from years ago, and our crack staff discovered that and said, well, you know, we need to button this up and do it right. There's a resolution change, and I think it's maybe a word or two that the state asked us to change. So therefore, we're coming back to you with this new resolution to accept the land, the 3.57 acres of land from the state of Connecticut that we have accepted a long time ago. In fact, built soccer fields on the land and have been using it for well over 10 or 15 years, but doing it right now. Oh shoot, since 2002.
Yes.
Yeah,
A long time.
so if you could read that resolution, maybe make the motion. And
Certainly, I'll move the
Thank
following. Whereas the state of Connecticut is the record owner of real property located at 199 West Main Street, as shown on a map entitled Lot Line Revision Boundary Survey between Connecticut Department of Corrections, 199 West Main Street, and the town of East Lyme, Bridebrook Park, 221 West Main Street, Route 156, East Lyme, Connecticut, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, dated July 17th, 2002, prepared by the town of East Lyme Engineering Department. And whereas pursuant to the Special Act number 03-19, the state is authorized to convey the property to the town of East Lyme. And whereas pursuant to section 3.3.1.5 of the town charter, the Board of Selectmen has the sole authority to accept gifts of real estate. And whereas the Planning Commission has authorized the acceptance of the property for use as a park in accordance with Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-24, and whereas the Department of Parks and Recreation has been using the property as an athletic field for 16 years and therefore finds it to be suitable for inclusion in the town's inventory of parks, and whereas the state requires a resolution by the Board of Selectmen to accept the conveyance of the property for a cost equal to the administrative costs of making such conveyance. It is resolved that the town of East Lyme accepts the property and authorizes the first selectman to execute and deliver such documents as may be necessary to effectuate the transaction.
Second?
Motion for the resolution and seconded. Any comments?
Mark, what was the, do you know what the change was? It's,
I
I
thought it
just
was-
wondered if it was,
yeah, I was gonna say, it's here somewhere. For a cost equal to the administrative cost of
Back
making
page.
such conveyance.
oh,
They
that's what
couldn't
the
give
other
it to us for free. We had to show some kind of value, or
Okay.
give something back, and we agreed that the administrative cost of making this conveyance was enough of the value. We also could have done it for $1, but we had spent some time in drawing up the legal side of this at the time, and we acknowledged that that is the cost for getting this land.
So we saved $1.
So we saved $1.
Fantastic.
Great thinking. You gotta
Yeah, we had to have something in there, it couldn't be for free. And
have
that's the change.
consideration.
Got
Some
it.
kind of
I
consideration.
think that's what they call it.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any further comments? Just kudos to Bill Scheer for his diligence in getting this done after so many years. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. The next item is the special appropriation of public works equipment. You know, when we put the budget together, and sometimes even the capital plan, we can't always anticipate little things that might break or needs that develop. And, you know, we're putting a plan together in the next month or two for next July to last a whole year. And we did the same last year. In the meantime, what we've done is we have some needs, and we do have an account when we do sell off old equipment. We put the money that we get from selling equipment and vehicles into a CNRE account entitled Proceeds from the Sale of Vehicles. And we use this account from time to time to go back and purchase equipment when the opportunity arises. We have 3 situations we really need some equipment. The lift system for a vehicle maintenance truck is in need of replacement, and this not only is important for getting the work done, it also is important so we don't have workman's comp claims when our workers are out trying to lift things. And the snow push box is a relatively inexpensive item for us to do large parking lots in town. And Joe Brigaz here to explain all these things, but also the shop press is seen its final day, and we make tools and parts in that on that press, and that has it's become a safety hazard now. So we'd like to use $15,741 for the purposes of buying these items. Would you go into a little bit of detail for me?
Sure. You did a very nice job. I do want to just mention a little bit about each one, just maybe
Yes,
on
thank
top
you.
of that. The lift, okay, so why didn't we budget it? That lift gets inspected every year. It passed its inspection last fall. It is getting older, but there was no indication. After the budgetary cycle this spring, we started having mechanical issues with it. So we had a vendor come out and take a look at it. It had a lot more problems than we anticipated. It's not an ideal, this is the lift. It's a car lift that we use for all. We have lifts for all large trucks, and then we have a bay for all our pickups, our mason dumps, all the small mid-sized trucks, and we take care of the whole fleet, Board of Ed, water, sewer, town. I mean, so that's used by a lot of different vehicles. So right now, that lift's on its last leg, and if anything happens to it at this point going forward, we're out of luck, and we really can't, it's not us lifting it, it's like any other auto shop. It actually goes under and hydraulically lifts.
I gave the wrong impression.
It lifts the actual vehicles. It's the lift, the car lift that brings it up 6 feet in the air. The guys can work under it. So that's an essential piece. It's not even, the one we have is not even ideal. It doesn't even lift all our equipment. So that's where we're proposing to get this new piece of equipment that's got 1 ton more capacity, 12,000 pounds instead of the existing 110. Kevin O'Day, our master mechanic, says we really need this. But in that budget line, in our operating highway, it's the same amount as last year. The highway budget doesn't have any more, if anything, has less in it this year. So I'm really uncomfortable spending $9,000 for this lift out of the fleet maintenance line, knowing that we usually use all of the fleet maintenance. So that's where this account was a good account to come in. This is exactly a good reason why you sell off these old vehicles, sell off the different equipment. Our staff has done a really great job of going on public surplus and taking equipment that we aren't really using, that have been sitting around, and selling it off and putting it into the sale account. That's the lift. The snow box, you're probably aware, if you're not, that the last year the Board of Ed took out of their budget any help from outside resources, outside services. Last year we were lucky. There wasn't a lot of snow. I think there was the only snow of any significance was in November. The whole area, community center, Lily B, middle school, is a great area that we can, and also, if you guys know, the middle school road around back is all the Board of Ed's road. It's not our road. It's not a town road. We'd like to put a snow box in that area. The snow box we have is a 14-foot box. It's way too huge to be using in a parking lot. It will rip those parking lots to shreds. So a 10-foot snow box would be much more nimble to get in that area and be much more useful. And it's $2,300, which is the same amount we just sold a snow blower that we had for 5-6 years that we weren't really using. So it was a wash, but the money we just sold the snow blower off had to go back in this exact same account. So we're almost a wash to buy a piece of equipment that will be really helpful to not only Board of Ed, but Public Works. And the last item, as Mark is saying, is the shop press. I heard around that OSHA was around the area looking at area towns, so I put a mandate to all my departments to look at safety issues in all your shops and all your stuff. And in that case, they found this piece of equipment that was very old. It doesn't have any guards on it. And if OSHA came in, it's an instant violation. So we basically locked it out. And this is the piece of equipment that it uses to make a lot of parts that we can do right in-house instead of spending thousands of dollars sending away for custom parts. So $4,500 would be well spent on the fleet maintenance of the town. So that's a little more of what those 3 items are. We just highway alone has sold off $46,000 worth of equipment in the last year and a half. 35,000 of it, which we sold to North Branford, the old trackless equipment that kept breaking down on us, and they wanted it for 35,000. So we're like,
Wow.
Here you go, send us a check. So that got put in this account. So the money's in that account. That's my understanding. What the money's meant for is to get things like this that not only are addressing safety issues, but will also create an efficiency and save the town money. So that's what I'm here for. Obviously, I understand it's Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting, but
Of course,
we'd like to move forward with that.
of course. Big questions.
What's our balance in the CRNE?
So, last fiscal year, we took in, 47,950, and so if we add that to the 20,000, so that would be over $60,000.
60,000, okay. And Joe, how did the purchasing policy work for you?
On these? Okay, good. The lift system is state bid.
Oh, great.
The push box is actually, we have two prices on it, but it's under 2,500. It's 2,300, but we do have two prices. And the shop press, we have three prices.
Okay.
Which is, it meets the, whatever the thresholds or what's requested.
Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you.
I can't imagine trying to run a maintenance shop without having a lift system. Can't imagine that we're
Very
going to
wise
have,
statement on your half. Yeah.
that we're going to have our town workers on little wheelers underneath the vehicles trying to check them out. I think that's a major safety issue, not only for of course, the vehicles, but also for the workers. So I think that's pretty much standard equipment for all of the repair work that you do considering you're servicing the whole town. The snow push box I'm not that familiar with, but definitely the shop press, you know, a lot of things are done in-house that save us money. So if this is approved, I'll be around to check out the snow push box and inform myself a little bit better and try not to get trapped in it.
It's basically a big steel box that you put to a hydraulic, whether a backhoe. I think that they want to put it in with a Kubota, the Parks and Rec Kubota, and it just basically, if you plow snow, you push it, but this can actually pick it up and move it, so you can do parking lots a lot easier. It's a lot more useful. It's the way to clean a parking lot. That's what you see. You see some of the local contractors, they have small machines with these big 10-foot push boxes, like Kurt Hayes and some of these other guys. That's what they do. That's what you do nowadays. You get these push boxes. It's just a big box that you use with a hydraulic piece of equipment that actually moves the snow and puts it where you want it to. I mean, plowing, you're not always able to push it, pick it up and move it, so it's the right piece of equipment.
Go ahead.
Those are things you see at the mall. They're usually
Correct.
in the
The mall.
corner
Yeah.
during the
The
summer.
ones at the mall are
Because they're not
Yeah,
using
those-
them.
yeah,
Those
they're
are
about
like,
40 feet.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's good to be brought in. The ones in the mall are like, more like the size of the one we have now. It's 14 feet. It's massive.
Yeah.
You can't drive that over the road, so you can't move it around.
Right.
A 10-foot box, you could actually drive it right from FSB with it on there. It's the same width of a road. A 14-foot box, which is the one we have now, it's nice to have a really big one. You can't drive it over the road. You'll get an accident. It's way too bigger than
Right.
So that's what we're trying to get, a more nimble unit that we can help at the schools and do the parking lots.
So would you keep the 14-inch one?
Yeah, we're gonna keep the 14. It's great at the FSB. It does Fulton Road. It does Capitol Drive. We'll use it on roads out there, but to plow a road, because our master mechanic not only just works on the trucks in the winter, but he also has a route. So he's right at the shop. So if any car comes in, he's right there. He's doing the parking lot. He's doing the two roads right next to there. And if anyone comes in, he drives in and he's ready to go. So it's nice to not have to have those on a plow route. And so he uses the the 14-footer there. Right now, it's been put at the community center, which we were only using the community center lot because we weren't going to the school. So it was a way overkill for the community center lot. And you destroyed all the curbs because it was way too big.
Right.
So this is a smart move.
Terrific. Any other questions?
I'll move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $15,742 from the CNRE Fund 32, account number 32-60-120-100-002, proceeds from the sale of vehicles, to an account to be established titled 2019 PWD Equipment, and to forward for the Board of Finance, to the Board of Finance for approval. And note, this requires a town meeting.
I'll second.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Very well done, and again, good use of the town money, and you know, we're getting good money back from the sale of some of our equipment and putting it to good use. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
The next item is from Chief Finkelstein, but in this case, the Emergency Management Director, Michael Finkelstein, the appropriation of reimbursable funds. As you know, every year we get nuclear safety money because we're a nuclear town. So we used to call it millstone money, and we're entitled to. Let me put it another way. There is a chunk of money that is available to nuclear towns around this Dominion facility. And we apply, as do all the other towns, for our share of it. And it's not always divided up evenly, it's divided up by need. So our Emergency Management Director, Chief Finkelstein, has put in an application for funding of certain items at our EOC and for other items, and they're listed here. It's $20,000, $20,311.36, which is 100% reimbursable by the Nuclear Safety Fund. He did want to point out again, if we don't apply for the money, some other town nearby gets it. But that's not to say we don't need the equipment. So what he's asked for and has been granted, and we just need to approve the, accept the money and therefore the appropriation of the funds. He's looking for 5 laptops for the Emergency Operations Center with software and powerless presenter for the command staff. When we have a major hurricane or an event at the Emergency Operations Center, all hands are on deck in the EOC, and what we want to do is be able to allow our EOC membership, all the department heads that show up and first responders, to be able to have access to computers, whether it's the governor's message or from their different, Joe might be in touch with the National Guard as far as removing trees. Meanwhile, we have someone from the health department checking on maybe something else, elderly who might need oxygen supplies. We might have Brad there from our water department checking on sewer backup, etc. So we needed computers there. So that's that. Of course, there are laptops too. So if we were in a situation where we were on the move, we'd be able to take that software with us. We're looking also for a monitor, basically a TV that'll be mounted in the EOC. Of course, all this equipment would be transferable to the new EOC in a year when we open up the new public safety building. But we're looking for a monitor so that we can put it up on the wall, and we'll be monitoring events that will be coming down from the state EOC. We're looking for 2 network failure routers, and what that is a fail-safe. If our network system were to go down, there would be a backup to be able to get on the internet. I would think that'd be a lot of money, but apparently it's a redundant feature, and if our network fails, it would kick in. We'd go onto a different network system, and that's $1,200.